Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink I have in sample form. It's by Diamine. Grape! And I really don't know how to describe this ink except to say that it is probably the most purple I have ever encountered. And I don't know how else to phrase that. And grape really reminds me, there was this medicine that we used to take as kids for like colds and things. It was called Dimetap. And Dimetap almost always came in grape flavor. Of course, it didn't taste anything like actual grapes, but it was exactly this color. And so there's almost this weird childhood nostalgia thing going on. But yeah, so grape! Now all the tests were done in this Parker Vector with a fine nib, even though oh wow, my camera actually focused today, cool. And this Nemosine Singularity. Let's see if it focused again. Kind of, can't see it, it's too small, but it's a 0.8 stub. It's sort of a medium stub. Check out the chromatography. Now here's how you're supposed to do it. You put the drop of ink, and you can see where that initial drop was, but you can see that most of it just completely washed away. See these big blank areas in here. Now here's what's cool. Look at this crazy separation. You have this very distinct sort of like red cloud up at the top, and these dark bits in the middle. Now here's where I let it dry. As you can see, which is not how you're supposed to do this, but see the dot is a bit darker. The red is kind of more distinct. There's more sort of pink feathering, or not feathering, but like hazing through there, so kind of interesting, right? Now here's a couple comparisons. Here's Diamine Grape, Diatramentis Giacomo Puccini, another very purple. Diamine's Imperial Purple, which you can see is sort of lighter, and Noodler's Violet, which is, yeah, I'd call that violet. As you can see, there's a bit more red in this. There's a bit of red in this too, but it has such a, like a cartoonish grape color. It's lovely. I really enjoyed it. Anyways, top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. Try and hold this real still so you can get a good look. It's nice, right? It's such a purple. It's not a light purple. It's not a violet. It's not all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just such a purple. And there's almost like a vibrancy to it, despite it being a bit dark in places. You get some great shading. Now the fine took 8 seconds to dry. The stub took 8 as well. As you can probably see in the scrubbies, you get this great green sheen, which I just think is so great. I mean, purple and green in this way kind of really go well together. I mean, look at that. And it's in the writing as well, but the scrubby is most obvious. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo even, really. I mean, it's really well behaved. It's a very steady flow. It's not, you don't have to fight with it. It's not pouring out. It's great. However, like many Diamine inks, it is not the strongest contender against water. It did dye the page. Most of it is gone. And what's interesting, and you'll see this throughout, but you can see some of that red separating, which is kind of interesting. Now next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter, where again, gorgeous sheen. Now neither of these pens are particularly wet, and particularly the stub, it's not wet at all, and because of the edge of that stub, the way it pulls the ink around, really highlights the shading qualities, but it also sort of makes it, it leaves very little ink behind when it draws that the edge of the nib down. So it's actually really good for writing on cheap paper, which we'll see. But yeah, again, the fine took 8 seconds to dry. The stub took 6, again because of that edge, leaving very thin layers of ink. And you have great shading. Look at the X and boxing. It's lovely. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. There's no bleed, no feather, no spread. So there's very mild echo in the wettest parts, but I don't know, you have to be particularly sensitive to it. Again, not the best water test. It did dye the page a bit, and again, you can see sort of like where that reddish pink stuff is left behind, which I think is interesting. But now next is Tomoe River Paper, where I think somehow it's almost like the vibrancy of the purple is just, it's popping a bit more. Maybe it's because of how it enhances shading, or maybe it's the cream color, I don't know, but I think it's really lovely. And you have sheen all over. Maybe I'll even be able to get it in the words. You can kind of see a bit of it. I mean, it's all throughout. It's gorgeous. And these are, on the scale of my pens, these are on the dry side. They're either medium or just over the side onto dry. So I say here, like, if I put this in one of my like sopping wet gin hounds, I say it somewhere, like on this paper, it would just be gorgeous. I mean, it would just, oh, it'd be so incredible. But anyways, it's very, very vibrant color. It's fantastic. Tomoe River, of course, loves to let ink slide away when you add more water, and that's definitely what happened here. But again, there's sort of that pinky stuff left behind. Next is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper, where, I mean, honestly, there's no shading left. There's still a very bright purple. It's not as bright. It's still pretty bright. The fine took 2.5 seconds. The stub took 1. Now, there is some bleed and feather and spread, but it could have been a lot worse considering how awful this paper is. Now, I'm going to try and find some feathering. Like, you see that line in the D. You see some feathering there. You see some there. A little bit here. It's a little bit throughout. It's not awful. There's definitely some spread. If we sort of compare the line width, you can see, particularly in the fine, that the line width got broader from the spread. I mean, we've seen this paper get decimated. This impressed me. This really did impress me. I mean, this fine did pretty well. The stub did really well. I mean, here I was laying it on kind of thick to see if I could get some sheen, but obviously that was futile. And again, because the paper is more absorbent, it sort of sucked the ink in more and was harder to wash out. So there is some left. It did feather and explode a bit. It did dye the page a good deal, but if you absolutely had to, you probably could recover that. Now the next two tests, I just used the stub, because as I kind of explained earlier, that edge sort of pulls the ink down and leaves a smaller amount, so I thought it would be a more fair test. And I think I was right, because I did write this bit with the fine, and it did show through more than with the stub. So again, no shading, not really. 3 seconds to dry, not a lot of shading. I mean, I'm going to say there's no shading, not really, but the color is still very nice. I mean, there's essentially no bleed. There's a bit of echo, like here in the end of the scrubby. But it's really not bad. I mean, I'm sensitive, and even I would write on both sides like this. So that's really not bad. Yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread. Not really. Some ghosting, because this is such thin paper. But now, this paper does not react well to water. It does tend to feather and explode. But even here, it wasn't too bad. We do see some, and it did dye the page, and the paper itself did kind of freak out. But now here's modern, accurate Moleskine notebook paper. Took 5 seconds to dry. And honestly, it did much better than I expected. Yeah, there is no feathering at all with this ink and this pen on this paper. None. There isn't any anywhere. There is no feathering. And that's like what this paper is known for. It just feathers like crazy. And here there's none. And there's bleed only in the spots and just a few. Look at that. Just a couple spots. This really impressed me. I mean, it's still a fairly bright color. Now, admittedly, the water test is a disaster. That was kind of unavoidable, but yeah. So, there you go. There's Diamine Grape. Such a purple. I mean, such a purple. I really enjoyed it. It has this wonderful green sheen, which contrasts like beautifully to this purple color. It behaves really well on cheap paper. It impressed me. I'm actually considering getting at least a 30 milliliter bottle. So, for your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to vote on what inks I should review before I leave fairly soon, please go over to the video apology, announcement, invitation, and let me know which ones you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching. Bye.